With SNAP food assistance set to run out, a federal judge ordering the Trump administration to continue funding the program that is used by nearly 42 million Americans. The judge ruling suspending the SNAP program would likely cause irreparable harm, citing the terror felt by Americans who are scrambling to meet their basic nutritional needs. Late Friday, President Trump saying he's instructed government attorneys to ask the judge how we can legally fund SNAP as soon as possible. If the court gives direction, the president said, it will be my honor to provide the funding. The benefits that roughly 1 in 8 Americans rely on were set to halt in nearly every state, a lifeline for many who struggle to put food on the table.
That's what feeds me. If I don't have that, I don't eat.
Now, day 32 of the government shutdown, approaching the longest shutdown in American history with no end in sight. President Trump placing the blame squarely on Democrats.
All they have to do is say, let's go, let's open up our country.
35 days is the longest running government shutdown, and we are going to hit it, I think. And that was also under Trump. So pretty cool stuff. And obviously the only reason why it's happening is because the administration refuses to fund ACA subsidies. Yeah, Congress is in recess, I think. So I don't even think that they can actually end this shutdown, even if they wanted to, until next week, until Monday. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think it's going to pass 35. Donald Trump is going to hit that record, baby. He is the GOAT. You know how it is. Record after record for my GOAT. Winning. I'm on ACA plan in Alabama, single 33-year-old male. My premium is increasing from $100 to $713. Millions of us are about to be uninsured. Yeah. And there's also so many additional consequences of this. Because if a guy like you, a 33-year-old single male who is less likely to be sick and less likely to actually tap in to the overall insurance pool, then you're just going to not take the chance. You're going to be like, all right, I'm just not going to have health insurance. Like, I'm relatively healthy. So when you're taken out of the insurance pool, insurance providers lose their leverage, right? Because that's how insurance works. For those of you who don't understand how insurance works, insurance providers will take a large pool of funds and will basically leverage the healthier population that has bought in to the insurance that never ends up using said insurance against those who are less healthy, who have a higher likelihood of using the insurance. This is how you create an insurance pool, right? But when the healthier people are like, well, I'm young, I'm healthy, there is a lower likelihood that I will get sick, so I'm just not going to pay these insane premiums, they pull out. They pull themselves out of the insurance market, the insurance pool, making it even more costly, because then you remain with only people who are the most sick, who desperately need insurance. Therefore, it creates this weird death spiral, right? And that is the major problem with the ACA subsidies. It is obviously a horrible public-private partnership structure that we have designed, not dissimilar to college campuses, not dissimilar to universities and how much their costs have also ballooned over the years. So when Republicans actually look at this structure and say, this system is broken, they're not wrong. It's just that they want to break it further in the wrong direction, in the direction of deregulating the marketplace further, allowing insurance companies to basically offer you junk insurance programs, which kind of already happen, and also maybe even deny coverage to people with pre-existing conditions, because those are the ways that insurance companies can basically eradicate the more costly elements, the more costly patients, okay? So that's the system that we have, and that's the issue that we have. They want to continue privatizing insurance even further and make it even worse and more costly, whereas those of us on the left want to make this one singular pool, single-payer healthcare. This is what we want to do, because we understand that it is far cheaper overall to have one major pool that is comprehensive and covers every single American. That way, there is no additional market competition amongst insurance providers. There is no bloated, unimaginably costly middleman that doesn't need to exist. It's the best solution. It's cheaper. It's good policy. It's good politics. People want it. And yet there is consensus, at least in Washington, amongst all the politicians, regardless of their party, regardless of their ideological background, with like some very few exceptions. Insurance as a sector must exist. There has to be a private insurance industry. Very, very dumb and also incredibly consequential, incredibly bad. And yet, this cruel system still remains. But as it stands, despite my advocacy for Medicare for all, I still recognize that the Democrats are doing the right thing to, at the very least, offer an immediate Band-Aid solution by pushing the government to continue funding ACA subsidies so that people just don't have a lapse in their coverage, or people don't see a massive increase in their premiums. Because like open enrollment starts, and if you actually just auto sign off on your pre-existing healthcare, you might be paying like 3x without even realizing it on your premiums. You have to, in a country where 64% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, okay, and can't pay for $400 in emergency funds, that's the first premium payment that you have to pay that will directly put you into potentially bankruptcy. It's ridiculous. It is fucking ridiculous. It is unimaginably cruel. It is ridiculous. And the Republicans don't even want that. They don't even want the Band-Aid. It's crazy. Democrats and Republicans have put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, and the Republicans rip the Band-Aid off. And they're like, nah, let the wound get worse.
And everything snaps back into shape.
Democrats demanding Republicans work with them to extend Obamacare subsidies. But Trump and Republicans say they won't negotiate until the government is reopened. The impact snowballing. Air traffic controller
My family's truly and genuinely fucked. We simply cannot afford new monthly premiums for health insurance. It went up like 45%, like no joke. It's going to be $1,300 a month starting in January. I have less than 2 weeks to decide if we go without insurance or without food or other necessities. I just don't think this can continue. There is no way that this can continue, okay? Maybe I'm wrong, but this level of instability, this level of inequality, this level of unreasonable pain that the working class are subjected to, it can't continue happening. Meanwhile, on the other side, you see the ways in which the Republicans on the timeline are moving against welfare, right? They're moving against SNAP. They are hitting the racialized like fuck SNAP line super hard. If you noticed, people can't absorb a $400 emergency and they're cutting SNAP for 40 plus million and boosting premiums by far more every single month. This will break the country. Yeah, I don't know where this goes is what I mean. You're saying do mutual aid chat, and that is true. We should be doing that. And I'm working on figuring out what I can do for food banks out here in Los Angeles. And I'm not really going to be around in LA for the next month or so, but I'm going to try my best to set up some fundraisers and stuff, even if I'm in China. However, mutual aid is not going to fix this, right? Like mutual aid can only fix your immediate community. It can help you organize, but it's not going to fix this systemic problem. Like there needs to be a disciplined, organized movement that is trying to tackle these issues, right? Mutual aid is a necessity, but it's small scale. We need mass mobilization. We need a disciplined, organized movement. First, we need a disciplined, organized movement to tackle the closest allies that aren't doing their jobs, that aren't actually moving the needle in the appropriate direction. And then with an even larger, more consequential, more organized mass movement, we need to topple the existing financial harms that this administration has brought about regular working class folks. Mutual aid in this regard does actually help, especially if you use it as an organizational tool. When you look at structural problems, structural inequities, inequalities that are designed by the system, and how kind-hearted, charitable people can actually make up for those problems. One of the best examples of this is food pantries. Food pantries and food banks, no matter how well-funded they are, cannot make up for SNAP. It's just the truth. Because the way SNAP works is it directly puts money in the cards, and EBT cards, like a credit card, of 42 million Americans. You can't make up for that with like food banks and food pantries. That doesn't mean you shouldn't work with food banks or food pantries. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's very important that you do. Having said that, however, that is also not even a Band-Aid at that point. That's just like you're trying to triage. You're trying to triage a state failure of incredibly consequential magnitude on your own. It's just not going to work. It's terrifying. SNAP also covers toiletries and feminine products that people need, like toothpaste and tampons. Yeah. It's not triage, it's like palliative care. Yeah, that's even better than that. But it's like triage palliative care. It's both right now, though. You are totally correct, but it's important that people feel motivated to help. No, absolutely. And meanwhile, while all this is happening, Donald Trump is throwing like a fucking roaring 20s Gilded Age ass party. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy. It's actually crazy.
Shortages across the country are leading to flight delays at some of the nation's busiest airports. Federally funded Head Start preschool programs serving more than 65,000 children now at risk of closing, potentially harming the development of young kids. Now, the president has publicly called for a major change to the Senate rules by ending the filibuster, a move that would allow for Republicans to pass spending bills without a single Democratic vote. But that was quickly shut down by Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Bottom line here is this stalemate continues with no apparent breakthroughs.
We begin with this morning's top story, the impact of the government shutdown on the nation's air travel system. The FAA says nearly half of the 30 busiest airports are dealing with a shortage of air traffic controllers. That contributed to a wave of flight delays across the country Friday, more than 5,700 nationwide. And last night at New York's LaGuardia Airport, two planes collided on the runway. Allie Bauman is here with more. Allie, good morning.
Good morning, Michelle.
Bro, am I cooked? I'm doing mad domestic and international travel in like the upcoming weeks. Jesus Christ, bro. Are we cooked?
No one was hurt when an arriving United jet clipped the tail of another United jet that was stationary on the taxiway. That second flight was headed for Houston. It was canceled, and all 162 passengers had to deplane. And this comes as the FAA says nearly 90% of New York air traffic controllers are absent.
Frustration is mounting at the nation's airports, where some passengers dealt with long delays.
It was supposed to fly out at 9 p.m., which was already a pretty late flight, and then delayed until 1 a.m.
Some spending the night in terminals, waiting for a flight.
It's not just affecting those employees, it's affecting us too, and it's a huge chain reaction.
In Boston, delays were over 2 hours. At New York's Kennedy Airport, nearly 3 hours, and at Newark International Airport, it was more than an hour. The FAA blames a shortage of air traffic controllers on the government shutdown. Now, 32 days.
Bro, one of the craziest parts about this is that we've talked about this already so many times. There has already been a shortage in virtually every single air traffic control tower in the country. And that was before the shutdown. And a big part of that problem is because they're just not hiring enough people. And obviously, because they don't have the labor union power, shouts out to Ronald Reagan for that, they can't even fight for it. The shortage has been going on well before the shutdown. I know. That has been a problem. That has been an issue.
Is long. 13,000 controllers missed their first full paycheck on Tuesday.
The added stress, the added strife and angst of not having a paycheck. How are we going to pay our mortgage or our rent and put food on the table for our families? You know, these are things that is a whole added layer of additional stress to what they already deal with.
With more controllers calling out sick, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warned this week holiday travel could be even worse.
Our traffic will be snarled, right?
There's already a hiring crisis on the ATC side. And obviously during the shutdown, as I reported, they don't train. They don't train the new people. So they're basically pushing back. For as long as the shutdown remains, there will be no new trained ATC air traffic controllers. So it's cooked. It diminishes the number of existing air traffic controllers. They don't train, so take a train. That's not going to work. There is no... I'm in Los Angeles. If I want to go to New York by train, okay, that's like a week-long process. Do you understand? The fastest route is still like going to be, I think, fucking 48 hours, okay? And it's also more expensive than flying. It sucks. Ironically enough, if there was a more robust railroad structure in this country and that had like high-speed rail, for example, across the continent, You literally would actually take some of the burden off of air traffic control. You would take some of the burden off of air travel in general, and it would make things easier to manage. But we don't do that. We don't ever fix any of the problems. We don't have any interest in fixing any of the fucking problems. We just... They're in a lawsuit on denying applicants on race, and this is the other side of the story. This is the other side of the story. There are dummies out here who unironically think that, like, the air traffic control is actually doing wokeness, okay? Like, they literally believe it. Brother, you need to understand, this current administration is launching erroneous lawsuits all the time, okay? They're launching ridiculous lawsuits to advance their propaganda so that people like you think, well, there's a legitimate case here. At a certain point, you got to realize, like, it doesn't matter. This is not a real issue of consequence. Okay. There is no world where, like, people are just like, nah, we're not fucking training whites for air traffic control. Like, don't be ridiculous. Yes, you are right, chatter. Planes are now crashing because of because of the previous administration's woke initiatives. This is the same principle behind the military. People are so dumb. People think that the military has a recruitment crisis, and amidst that recruitment crisis, they've actually lowered standards for woke. No, they've lowered standards for the recruitment crisis so they can recruit more people. Okay? This is the problem. People think people want super easy to understand narratives. And Republicans have landed on a gold mine. Republicans have landed on a fucking gold mine with this woke shit. You can just literally look at all of the corrosive elements under capitalism and say, oh, it's just woke and gay. People are just doing it for woke and gay reasons. And then you go, oh yeah, I agree with that. That does seem right to me.